It's a profound truth that many of us often overlook when life is going well. In the moments of joy, success, and happiness, it's easy to feel close to God. We recognize His blessings, we thank Him for the victories, and we feel His presence in the goodness of life. When everything seems to align, when doors are opening, and when you feel a sense of peace, it's natural to acknowledge God's hand in your life. You wake up in the morning with gratitude, knowing that everything you have, every opportunity, is a reflection of His grace. In these moments, you feel assured that God is with you, guiding you to your purpose and protecting you from harm. But what about when life turns? What about those moments when you're not winning, when things aren't aligning and everything feels heavy? What about when the struggles feel insurmountable, when you've lost a job, a relationship has ended, or a loved one has passed away? It's in these difficult times that many begin to question God's presence. People often wonder, where is God now? Why would He allow me to suffer? But it is in these very moments, in the valleys of life, that we must remember the most important truth: God is with you just as much in your suffering as He is in your joy. The trials of life do not mean that God has abandoned you. Hardship does not signify that God has turned His back or that He is distant. In fact, it's quite the opposite. God is most present when you are at your lowest. He sees your pain, knows your struggles, and He is walking with you through every tear, every heartbreak, and every moment of doubt. His presence isn't something that fluctuates based on your circumstances. It doesn't increase when you're winning and decrease when you're struggling. God is a constant, unwavering, and unchanging, even when your life is anything but steady. When you're going through hard times, it's easy to feel isolated, like nobody understands your pain. You may even feel betrayed by people or by life itself. But in those moments, you have to trust that God's understanding of your situation goes far beyond what you can see or feel. He is not absent, He is working. You may not see the outcome now, but God is with you, guiding you even when the path is dark. You don't need to feel His presence to know that He is there. Faith is about believing in what you cannot always see and trusting that God's plan is unfolding even in the hardest seasons. Think about the challenges you've already overcome in life. Think about those moments when you thought you couldn't go on, when the weight of the world felt like too much to bear. And yet, somehow you found the strength to keep moving. Where did that strength come from? It came from God, from His presence within you, giving you the endurance to push forward. God's presence doesn't always reveal itself in miraculous ways. Sometimes it's in the quiet perseverance you find in yourself when everything else feels lost. It's important to understand that suffering is a part of life, but it's not a sign that God has left you. God allows us to go through trials for a reason. Sometimes those reasons are unclear to us in the moment, but every challenge, every hardship, every loss is a part of a greater plan. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. There are lessons in the valleys that we can't learn on the mountaintop. There is growth that happens in our pain that can't occur when everything is perfect. God uses these moments to strengthen us, to deepen our faith, and to shape us into the people we are meant to become. During your darkest days, God is closer than ever. In your sadness, He is the comfort that keeps you going. In your confusion, He is the voice that whispers, "Keep faith." Even when you don't hear that voice, it's there, guiding you gently through the storm. God never promised us a life without hardship. He never said that we wouldn't face trials, pain, or loss. What He did promise is that He would be with us through it all. He promised that we would never be alone. And that is what you must remember. No matter what you are facing, you are not walking through it by yourself. It is also in the challenging times that we often grow the most spiritually. Hardships force us to lean on God in ways we might not when life is easy. In moments of struggle, we are reminded that we are not in control, that we must surrender to a higher power, to God's will. These experiences push us closer to Him because they remind us of our human limitations and of the infinite strength we can draw from God. When we face pain and adversity, we realize just how much we need God. And in that realization, our relationship with Him deepens. When you find yourself in those moments of despair, when the bad times seem to outweigh the good, I want you to remember this: God is with you in both the good and the bad times. His love for you doesn't waver based on your circumstances. He isn't a fair weather friend who shows up only when life is easy. He is constant, faithful, and present in every moment, in every situation, in every breath you take. There are times in life when it feels like everything around you is crumbling. The world seems cold and unforgiving, and no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to find your way out of the storm. These are the moments when doubt creeps in, whispering in your ear that you're all alone, that no one understands your pain, and that God has somehow forgotten about you. But let me tell you something profound and true: God never abandons you, not even for a second. In the darkest, most painful moments of your life, He is right there with you, even when you can't feel Him. When you're in the middle of deep suffering, it's hard to see God's hand at work. The pain is overwhelming, and the burden feels unbearable. But it's in these moments of intense struggle that God's presence is the strongest, even if it doesn't feel that way. God isn't absent just because things are hard. In fact, it's often during your darkest days that He is carrying you, holding you together when you feel like falling apart. You might not recognize it in the moment, but you'll look back and realize that He was there all along. When you're walking through the valley, it's easy to believe that you're on your own. Life's difficulties can make it seem like God has turned His back on you. But the truth is, God is closer to you than you realize. He sees every tear you cry, every sleepless night you endure, every bit of heartache you carry. God doesn't leave you in those moments. Instead, He walks beside you, even when you can't feel His presence. He's not a distant observer. He's involved in your struggle, guiding you through the pain and offering strength when you have none left. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that if things are going wrong, it must mean that God has abandoned us. We assume that if God were truly with us, we wouldn't be suffering. But that's not how life works, and it's not how God works. God never promised us a life free of trials, but He did promise that He would never leave us no matter what we face. The absence of pain is not a measure of God's presence. He is with you, even in the worst moments of your life, when your heart is broken, when your spirit feels crushed, and when the weight of the world is on your shoulders. God's presence doesn't always manifest in grand, obvious ways. Sometimes it's in the small, quiet moments that you might overlook. It could be the unexpected phone call from a friend when you need it most, or the inner peace that washes over you when you thought there was none to be found. God is with you, even in the subtle ways, offering comfort and reassurance that you are not alone. The problem is, we often expect God to show up in dramatic ways, and when He doesn't, we think He's not there. But God doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. Sometimes His presence is as gentle as a whisper in the storm. When you're at your lowest, and the darkness seems too thick to penetrate, that's when you have to hold on the tightest. God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't left your side. The moments when you feel most forsaken are the times when God is working the hardest behind the scenes. It's difficult to understand why God allows certain things to happen, and sometimes we may never fully know the reason. But one thing remains constant: His love for you and His promise to never abandon you, no matter how deep the valley. Think about the stories of people who have endured unimaginable hardships, people who have faced loss, illness, or tragedy. Time and time again, when they look back on their darkest moments, they speak of a strength they didn't know they had, a peace they didn't expect to find, and a sense of being carried through it all. That's not by accident. That's God's unwavering presence, holding them up when they couldn't stand on their own. And the same is true for you, whether you recognize it or not. Even when life feels chaotic and overwhelming, God's presence is a constant, a steady force in the midst of the storm. It's easy to let the noise of the world drown out that presence, to become so consumed by our pain and our circumstances that we lose sight of God's hand in our lives. But just because you can't see Him working doesn't mean He's not there. Sometimes God works in the background, orchestrating things in ways we don't understand until later. His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match our expectations. In your darkest moments, it's important to remember that God's love is not conditional. He doesn't leave when things get tough. He's not just a fair weather companion who sticks around when life is easy and smooth. No, God is there for the long haul, through the highs and the lows, through the joys and the sorrows. He is with you in the light, and He is with you in the dark. His love is steadfast, His presence is unwavering, and His promise to never abandon you is one that you can count on, no matter how bleak the situation may seem. When life is smooth and things are going well, faith can feel effortless. It's easy to believe in the goodness of life and the promises of God when everything seems to fall into place. But adversity tests that faith in ways that are often uncomfortable and challenging. When adversity strikes, faith becomes the foundation that holds you together. It's not just something you turn to for comfort. Faith is the anchor that keeps you steady when the waves of life are crashing all around you. Without it, the storms can feel overwhelming, like you're lost at sea without any sense of direction or hope. Adversity comes in many forms: loss, failure, sickness, disappointment, rejection, and uncertainty. In those moments, it's natural to question everything. You may wonder why you're going through such difficulty, why God has allowed such pain to enter your life. But it's precisely in these moments of doubt and despair that faith becomes essential. Faith isn't about having all the answers or knowing exactly how things will turn out. It's about trusting that, even in the middle of the storm, God is still in control. Faith says, I don't understand this right now, but I trust that there's a purpose beyond what I can see. When adversity hits, it's easy to feel disconnected from everything, including your faith. You may feel distant from God, as if your prayers are going unanswered or your cries for help are unheard. But that's where faith steps in. Faith is what keeps you holding on when everything else tells you to let go. It's the belief that God hasn't abandoned you, even when the circumstances make you feel alone. Faith is the bridge between your present pain and the future hope that things will get better, even when you have no tangible proof that it will. The thing about adversity is that it strips away the surface-level comforts and forces you to confront what you truly believe. When life is easy, it's tempting to rely on your own strength, your own plans, and your own abilities. But adversity brings you to a place where those things no longer suffice. It humbles you and reminds you that you are not in control. And in that humility, faith becomes not just something you cling to, but something you live by. It shifts from being an abstract concept to a daily practice, a way of navigating the unknown with trust and hope. One of the most powerful aspects of faith during adversity is its ability to give you perspective. When you're in the midst of hardship, everything feels magnified: the pain, the fear, the uncertainty. But faith helps you zoom out and see the bigger picture. Faith reminds you that your current struggle is not the end of the story. It helps you to remember that adversity, though painful, is often temporary, and that there is something greater on the other side of it. Faith gives you the strength to endure, knowing that this moment is part of a larger journey that is unfolding. Faith also provides a sense of peace that transcends the chaos of adversity. It's not a peace that comes from everything being perfect or resolved, but rather a peace that comes from knowing that God is with you in the midst of the struggle. Faith is what allows you to find calm in the storm, to rest in the assurance that, no matter what happens, you are not alone, and you are not forsaken. It's the peace that surpasses understanding, the kind that doesn't make logical sense given the circumstances, but is rooted in a deep, unwavering trust in God's plan. Another important aspect of faith during adversity is that it fuels resilience. When faced with hardship, it's natural to want to give up, to retreat, or to lose hope. But faith pushes you forward. It gives you the courage to keep going when everything else tells you to stop. Faith reminds you that the story isn't over, that there is still more to be written, and that you are stronger than you think. It's not that faith makes the adversity disappear, but it gives you the strength to face it head on, knowing that God's power is made perfect in your weakness. Adversity also has a way of deepening your faith. When you go through trials and come out the other side, your faith is often stronger because it has been tested and proven. There's something about walking through the fire that refines your faith, that strips away any superficial beliefs and leaves you with something more genuine and lasting. It's easy to say you have faith when everything is going well, but true faith is forged in the crucible of adversity. It's in those moments of struggle that your faith is stretched, challenged, and ultimately strengthened. Faith during adversity also fosters a deeper sense of reliance on God. When you're faced with problems you can't solve on your own, it forces you to surrender control and lean on God in ways you might not have before. It's in the darkest moments that you realize your own limitations and the vastness of God's power. Adversity has a way of stripping away our illusions of self-sufficiency and reminding us of how deeply we need God's presence and guidance. Faith is what allows you to let go of the need to control the outcome and trust that God is working, even when you can't see it. Faith is what sustains you through adversity, not by eliminating the challenges, but by giving you the strength to endure them. It doesn't always take away the pain, but it gives you the hope to keep going in the midst of it. Faith transforms your perspective, allowing you to see that even in your suffering, God is present and He is working for your good. Faith doesn't promise an easy life, but it does promise that you'll never face life's challenges alone. In the end, faith is not just a response to adversity, it's what makes it possible to endure, to grow, and to emerge stronger than before. This idea can be difficult to accept, especially when we are in the midst of hardship, pain, or confusion. It's natural to question why we face challenges and why things don't always go the way we expect or hope. We often wonder why a loving God would allow us to endure suffering. But it's important to understand that God's plan is bigger than what we can see, and life's struggles, as painful as they may be, are not without purpose. They are part of the process that shapes us, refines us, and draws us closer to Him. God's plan is not just about the good times, it encompasses the difficult times as well, because it is through those moments that we grow in ways we could never imagine. When we think about God's plan for our lives, we often envision a path filled with blessings, success, and happiness. And while those things are certainly part of His plan, so too are the valleys and challenges that come our way. Struggles teach us lessons we could not learn in any other way. They force us to confront our weaknesses, to dig deep into our faith, and to trust God, even when the way forward seems unclear. Without the struggles, we might never realize the strength, resilience, or character that God is developing within us. Life's struggles are not detours from God's plan, they are integral to it. In the Bible, we see countless examples of individuals who faced tremendous struggles as part of their journey with God. Consider Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the outside looking in, it would have been easy to assume that Joseph's life was full of nothing but misfortune and suffering. Yet, in the end, all of those struggles led to his rise to power in Egypt and his ability to save his family during a famine. What appeared to be setbacks were actually setups for God's greater purpose. Joseph's story reminds us that God's plan often works through the very struggles we wish to avoid. When we face struggles, it's tempting to focus solely on the pain or frustration we feel in the moment. We often ask, why me? Why now? But faith encourages us to shift our perspective and ask, what is God teaching me through this? How is He using this struggle to shape me? God doesn't waste any experience in our lives, not even the hard ones. Every challenge, every disappointment, and every setback is part of the greater tapestry of His plan. It may not make sense to us in the moment, but that doesn't mean there isn't a purpose behind it. God is always working, even when we can't see it. Life's struggles often lead to transformation. Through hardship, God molds us into the people we are meant to be. The trials we face have a way of humbling us, breaking down our pride, and helping us to rely more fully on God. It's in those moments of struggle that we realize our own limitations and learn to depend on His strength instead of our own. The discomfort we feel during these times is part of the refining process. Like gold is refined in the fire, so too are we refined through the fires of adversity. The struggles are not meant to destroy us, but to make us stronger, more compassionate, and more attuned to God's voice. God's plan is not about shielding us from every hardship, it's about walking with us through those hardships and using them to grow our faith. We may not always understand why certain things happen, but we can trust that God is using them for our good. The struggles we face often strip away the distractions and superficial comforts that can distance us from Him. In the midst of suffering, we are forced to turn to God in ways we might not when life is easy. It is through these struggles that our relationship with God deepens, as we learn to trust Him more fully, even when we don't understand His ways. Struggles also give us the opportunity to develop perseverance and endurance. When life is easy, we don't often think about what it means to endure or to persist in faith. But in the face of adversity, we are called to keep going, to hold on to our faith, and to trust in God's plan even when the path forward seems unclear. This endurance isn't just about surviving the struggle, it's about growing through it. It's about developing a faith that isn't shaken by circumstances, but that remains steadfast in the knowledge that God is working all things together for our good. Struggles help us build spiritual resilience, making us stronger and more rooted in our faith. Another key aspect of life's struggles being part of God's plan is the way in which they prepare us for future blessings and responsibilities. Often, the struggles we face are laying the groundwork for something greater that God has in store for us. We may not see it in the moment, but the difficulties we encounter are often the very things that prepare us for the next chapter of our lives. God uses struggles to stretch us, to challenge us, and to equip us for the roles we are meant to play in His plan. Just like Joseph's journey led him to a position of leadership, our own struggles may be preparing us for opportunities we never anticipated. One of the hardest things to accept is that some of life's struggles are meant to teach us how to surrender. We often want to control our lives, to plan everything out, and to avoid pain at all costs. But struggles remind us that we are not in control, and that our lives are ultimately in God's hands. Surrendering to God's plan means trusting that He knows what He's doing, even when we don't understand it. It means letting go of our desire to avoid discomfort and embracing the truth that God is working through every situation. It's in the surrender that we find peace, knowing that God's plan is greater than anything we could imagine for ourselves. Life's struggles are part of God's plan to help us develop empathy and compassion for others. When we go through difficult times, we are better able to understand and relate to the struggles of those around us. Our own pain equips us to comfort others in their pain. God often uses our struggles to minister to others, allowing us to be a source of encouragement and hope. What we endure is not just for our own growth, but for the growth of the community around us. Through our struggles, God creates opportunities for us to share His love and grace with others, helping them to see that they too are part of His plan. In a world that often feels isolating and overwhelming, it can be easy to succumb to feelings of loneliness and despair. Many people experience moments when they feel completely alone, as if no one understands their struggles or can relate to their pain. It's during these times that we may feel like we're navigating life's challenges in solitude, carrying our burdens without any support. But it's crucial to remember that you are never alone. No matter how isolated you might feel, there is a presence surrounding you that is constant, loving, and supportive. This presence is not just about the people in our lives, it's about a deeper connection that transcends our earthly experiences. Throughout history, many individuals have experienced profound moments of loneliness. Think of figures like David in the Psalms, who often cried out to God in his despair. He felt abandoned at times, yet through his writings, we see a profound understanding that even in his darkest moments, he was not alone. The truth is that these feelings of isolation are part of the human experience, but they do not define our reality. While we may feel like we're wandering through a desert, lost and alone, God promises to walk with us every step of the way. His presence is a refuge in times of trouble, reminding us that even when the world seems empty, we are surrounded by divine love and support. One of the most beautiful aspects of the idea that you are never alone is the understanding that God is always with you. Regardless of your circumstances or feelings, God's love and presence are unwavering. It is easy to feel abandoned when facing difficulties, but in those very moments, God is often working behind the scenes. He hears your cries, sees your struggles, and knows the depths of your heart. He is not a distant observer, he is intimately involved in your life, providing comfort and guidance when you need it most. The reality of his presence can be a source of strength, reminding you that you do not face your battles alone. In addition to God's presence, it's essential to recognize the support that can come from the community around us. While we may feel alone, there are often people who care deeply about us, even when we don't realize it. Friends, family, and loved ones can provide a shoulder to lean on and words of encouragement when we need them most. Building and nurturing these relationships is crucial, as they can serve as a reminder of the interconnectedness of humanity. When you allow others into your life, you create a network of support that can lift you during your darkest hours. It's okay to reach out for help and to let others know when you're struggling. You may be surprised by the love and kindness that surrounds you when you open yourself up to it. Moreover, consider the idea that there are countless individuals throughout history who have walked similar paths of loneliness and struggle. You are not the first to experience hardship, nor will you be the last. There is a shared human experience that connects us all. In this sense, you are never truly alone. Think about the stories of those who have overcome adversity and found strength in their struggles. Their journeys can inspire you, serving as reminders that others have felt what you feel and have emerged on the other side with a deeper understanding of themselves and their purpose. This collective experience can be a source of comfort, helping you to feel connected to something greater than yourself. When you realize that you are never alone, you can begin to shift your perspective on your struggles. Instead of viewing them as isolating experiences, see them as opportunities for growth and connection. Your challenges can be a bridge that brings you closer to others who have faced similar situations. They can also deepen your relationship with God as you learn to rely on Him for strength and guidance. Embracing this mindset can transform your approach to adversity, helping you to see that you are part of a larger narrative that includes both your own story and the stories of those around you. It's also important to remember that feeling alone does not diminish your worth or value. The moments when you feel isolated can often lead to profound self-discovery and growth. God sees you as His beloved child, deserving of love and connection. Even when you feel disconnected from others, you are never disconnected from His love. In times of loneliness, turn to prayer, meditation, or contemplation. These practices can help you reconnect with your inner self and with God, providing solace and clarity. When you embrace the truth that you are never alone, you open yourself up to the possibility of healing and renewal. Consider the power of storytelling as a way to combat loneliness. Sharing your experiences with others can create bonds that reinforce the idea that we are all in this together. Your story can resonate with someone else's, and in sharing, you can find common ground that fosters connection and understanding. By opening up about your struggles, you create space for others to do the same, building a community of support that reminds us that none of us are truly alone. This act of vulnerability can be incredibly liberating and can help dismantle the barriers that loneliness often erects. Lastly, always remember that the feeling of being alone does not define your reality. You are part of a larger tapestry of existence, woven together by shared experiences, love, and divine connection. Whether you draw strength from your faith, the support of loved ones, or the stories of those who came before you, know that you are never truly isolated. Life is filled with moments of connection and community, and by seeking them out, you can combat feelings of loneliness and embrace the truth that you are, indeed, never alone. In the depths of your struggles, hold on to this truth, for it is a powerful reminder of the love and support that surrounds you, even in the most challenging of times. You said, stand firm in your faith and trust God's process, expend it, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy of 10 paragraphs. ChatGPT said, ChatGPT, stand firm in your faith and trust God's process. Life is a journey filled with twists and turns, ups and downs, and moments of clarity alongside moments of confusion. In the midst of these ever-changing circumstances, it can be all too easy to waver in our faith and lose sight of the bigger picture. However, standing firm in your faith means choosing to trust in God's process, even when the way forward seems uncertain. It's a conscious decision to hold on to the beliefs and convictions that ground us, especially during challenging times. This steadfastness allows us to navigate life's complexities with hope and assurance that God is working everything out for our good. Standing firm in your faith requires an unwavering commitment to your beliefs, even when faced with doubt and adversity. It's about holding on to the promises God has made to you, even when the world around you seems to contradict those promises. In times of trial, it's natural to question and wrestle with your faith, but it's essential to remember that doubts can coexist with belief. Embracing this tension allows you to deepen your understanding of God and His character. Rather than allowing doubt to derail you, use it as an opportunity to seek answers, to pray, and to grow in your relationship with Him. This active engagement with your faith can strengthen your resolve and help you to stand firm. Trusting God's process means recognizing that His timing and ways are often different from our own. We live in a world that values immediate gratification and quick results, but God operates on a divine timeline that may not always align with our expectations. When we are in the midst of waiting, whether for healing, provision, or clarity, it can be tempting to take matters into our own hands or to lose faith altogether. However, standing firm means choosing to trust that God is at work, even when we can't see it. It requires us to let go of our desire for control and to surrender to His perfect plan. Remember that His process is often designed to prepare us for what is ahead, molding us into the individuals He created us to be. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of individuals who stood firm in their faith, even when circumstances were dire. Consider Abraham, who was promised a son, but had to wait for decades before that promise was fulfilled. Abraham faced many challenges, including doubt and uncertainty, but he remained steadfast in his trust in God. His story teaches us that faith is not merely a feeling, it's an action. Standing firm means continuing to believe, to hope, and to trust, even when the fulfillment of God's promises seems distant. Abraham's journey demonstrates that God's process often involves a waiting period, but that waiting can be an essential part of building a deeper faith. Additionally, standing firm in your faith encourages resilience. Life's challenges can feel overwhelming, and it's easy to become discouraged when faced with obstacles. However, when we choose to trust God's process, we develop resilience that enables us to withstand the storms of life. Resilience is not just about enduring difficulties, it's about learning and growing through them. Each struggle becomes an opportunity to strengthen your faith and to draw closer to God. Standing firm means embracing the trials as part of your journey, knowing that God is using them to shape your character and deepen your reliance on Him. As you stand firm in your faith, it's essential to cultivate a supportive community around you. Surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who share your beliefs can provide encouragement and strength during difficult times. Fellowship with others who are also committed to standing firm in their faith can serve as a source of inspiration. Together, you can share your struggles, pray for one another, and remind each other of God's promises. Community plays a vital role in reinforcing your faith, providing a safe space for vulnerability, and fostering a spirit of hope and resilience. In moments of doubt, it can be incredibly uplifting to lean on others who can remind you of the truths you may struggle to see. Another important aspect of standing firm in your faith is maintaining a consistent prayer life. Prayer is the lifeline that connects you to God, allowing you to express your thoughts, fears, and desires. It's in prayer that you can find comfort and guidance, especially when you feel uncertain about the future. Regularly seeking God in prayer helps to keep your focus on Him rather than on your circumstances. As you pour out your heart to Him, You may find renewed strength to trust His process. Remember that prayer is not just about asking for things, it's also about listening for His voice and being open to His leading. Through prayer, you can cultivate a deeper relationship with God, which will fortify your faith. In addition to prayer, immersing yourself in Scripture can provide clarity and encouragement as you stand firm in your faith. The Bible is filled with promises, stories of perseverance, and reminders of God's faithfulness. Reading and meditating on God's Word can remind you of His unchanging nature and His commitment to His people. When faced with doubts or challenges, you can draw on the wisdom and truths found in Scripture to reaffirm your faith. These passages serve as a reminder that God has a plan for your life, and that He is always working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. Standing firm in your faith also means recognizing that the journey is not always easy, and there will be moments of struggle. It's essential to give yourself grace during these times. Faith is not about perfection, it's about progress. There may be days when you feel strong in your faith and days when you feel weak. On those challenging days, remember that it's okay to lean on God and to seek help. Embrace the journey as a series of ups and downs, understanding that each experience contributes to your growth. Trust that God is with you through it all, and that He can use even your doubts and struggles to bring about His purpose in your life.